Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Alex of Coyote Star Astrology, and this is my video for the full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius coming to us on May 26th, 2021, which is a Wednesday here in California. However, you'll want to adjust for your current location on the planet as that time and date may change. Thank you so much for joining me, and we have probably a bit longer of a video this time. We have a lot to cover. We've got a Mercury retrograde to sort through, we've got an eclipse to decode, and I am excited about this eclipse because I just feel like it's an important moment in time. We've got a Jupiter square hitting this eclipse, which kind of makes it larger than life. I've already felt the energy kind of mounting and accelerating as we get closer and closer. I'm filming this on a Monday, and I'm definitely feeling the energy of this lunar event coming in. So if full moons and new moons are something that you normally like to celebrate and align with, you'll probably definitely want to pay attention to this one. So let's start to decode this chart here. This full moon lunar eclipse is bringing the south node in Sag and the north node in Gemini into our awareness heavily. That's sort of like the foundation for this eclipse. And you know, eclipses are these wild cards. Astrologers consider them sort of these special days that can hallmark chapter markers or special moments in time when certain insights came through or when a new chapter begins. I've definitely noticed that eclipses can mark a time where I seem to pivot in time and space and head in a new direction, either through an unexpected event or just some kind of like wall of energy that seemed to pass through my life and upgrade, dismantle, and shift things. So eclipses are interesting. They're definitely portals, and they happen at the nodes of the moon, which are these gateways into the past and the future. The south node, the dragon's tail, this goes into past lives and the karmic baggage that the collective is sort of carrying around. And the north node, the dragon's head, is all about the future, the collective destiny, and what we are as a human race trying to grow into, trying to accomplish. So as we said, this full moon lunar eclipse happens at the south node in Sagittarius. You can see there's the moon at 5 degrees Sag, and the north node in Gemini. There's the sun, 5 degrees Gemini. So what is Sag and Gemini about? This is how we can start to feel into what this eclipse is asking that we let go of, south node, and what it's asking that we embrace, north node. So when we're talking about the south node in Sagittarius, we're talking about the lower frequency of Sag because this is something that we want to heal or upgrade. Shadows of Sagittarius deal with what we could call know-it-all syndrome, otherwise known as dogma, a need to be right or a need to cling to a belief system and having a difficult time accepting that there are other belief systems that might challenge that sort of mental matrix. So as a collective, because we've had the nodes in Sagittarius and Gemini, and you know that I've been talking about this in previous videos, we have all on some level had our belief systems questioned, had the way that we construct our thought forms and our mental matrix that makes up our reality shaken to its core. This has been happening to each one of us in a different way, as each one of us individually on the microcosmic scale has been asked to lean into and to grow into the north node in Gemini, which represents the ability to question, the ability to remain unbiased as we explore the world, the ability to welcome new data and new points of view. Gemini is excited to ask why about life. Sagittarius wants to know. Both are on the search for truth, and that's why they share an axis. They're both more or less headed in the same direction. They go about it in different ways. And in this eclipse, we're being asked to shed and release outdated programming, programming is a big thing with Sagittarius. With South Node and Sagittarius, we deal with the values that we've been raised with, the way that we've always looked at things, the way that we've always felt about or done things. And we're really being asked to finally shift that and go into Gemini. Within Gemini, because this is the North Node, there's definitely something sort of alien about this. This might mean really starting to come to terms with the fact that it's really time to make lots of changes in our life, particularly perhaps around social connections, because Gemini is about our friends and our social life and all of this, but also just about the way that we think, because Gemini rules the mind, right? So I'm going to use a personal example in my life, which I actually discussed a bit on a podcast that I did, but I haven't directly talked about on this channel. This is a South Node Sag, North Node Gemini thing that I've been dealing with throughout all of this year and a little bit of last year. And I'm sharing this because I feel like it perfectly illustrates this point. So, as some of you may know that have been following me for a while, particularly on social media, I had been vegan slash, well, I'd been vegetarian since I was about 13 or 14 years old in junior high. And I did that for many years. And then I switched over to hardcore vegan. I honestly don't remember, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. So when I say hardcore vegan, I mean I was very immersed in that belief system. Am also, I will say, an animal activist. I went to slaughterhouses. I did the marches. Animal rights is something that I always, well, and human rights. The rights of sentient beings are something that I feel very strongly about, and I was very connected to and immersed in that movement for a while. Now, I have my moon in Libra in the 6th house, opposite my ascendant and square Neptune. Health and the journey around health has been a long-standing karmic journey of mine. And a bit of a torturous one, I might add, probably from the square from Neptune in the opposition to my ascendant. Pretty much starting with really horrible gut and candida issues as a teenager, stemming from antibiotics that were given to me by doctors and things like this. Top that off with a horrific eating disorder that I struggled with for the better part of 10 years. Was in therapy, got down to about 89 pounds, severely malnourished, bulimic, anorexic, laxative abuse, you name it. Was really horrible to my body. And of course, this exasperated the gut issues that I already had. Really, really nightmarish. That's another story. And maybe one day, if anyone's interested or it would help, I could do a separate video or series about my journey through healing from that. But, anyways, since getting well from my eating disorder, I've struggled with a lot of different health issues that I've been trying to fix through diet. And like many people, I ended up doing the vegan diet not only because of the alignment within me caring about animal rights, but also because I thought it was healthy. So I did, and potentially it is for some people. So I did that for years. My health issues were not getting better, and then in 2019 and 2020, I sort of, like, in a desperate attempt to fix the ailments, the hormone problems and things that I was suffering from, I went like full on raw fruitarian. And unfortunately, despite what sort of everyone in that community will tell you and told me, it did not make me better. It actually made me worse. And so, when was it? I guess, well, I don't know if Justine's watching this. She'll have to put it in the comments. When it changed was when I reconnected with a friend of mine, Justine Parizo, and I'm going to link her up on the page. She's the woman behind Moon Magic Herbs. She's an incredible herbalist and an incredible wealth of information around the body, the mind, the soul, biohacking, herbs, etc. So follow her on Instagram if that interests you. Anyway, she and I knew each other in elementary school, and we reconnected, and she had a very, very similar journey to mine around health and wellness, and had an eating disorder, had the gut health issues, had the hormone issues, went vegan, went raw, and saw her health decline. And she had healed her issues that directly mirrored mine through eating animal products. And I had so much resistance to this. She can concur. And at first, I really wasn't willing to budge. I wanted to work with her, but I wanted to stay vegan. But she kind of like gently and endearingly let me know that there was only so far we could go if I wasn't willing to make that shift. So my health issues started to get worse and worse. I was dealing with crippling insomnia, acne, hair's thinning, all the things. And over time, out of desperation, I started to welcome this new perspective, even though it went against my prior belief system. And I don't mean, for brevity's sake, I'm keeping this story short, but I just want to drive home the point how difficult this was for me. My boyfriend was present for a couple breakdowns, emotional breakdowns around this issue, lots of tears, lots of walks through the mountains on my own, wondering what the hell was happening and how could I possibly be considering eating animal products after I've used my platform on social media to talk about animal rights, and that it is something that I believe in so deeply. But on the other hand, my health was failing and I was really scared. When your hair starts falling out, you get scared, you know? So I started slow. I added bone broth and I started eating fish, and lo and behold, my health started to improve. All of this to say, it has been one of the most confronting journeys of my life, because I've had to humbly bow to the fact that I have been wrong and that I've been dogmatic about something that I didn't fully have a wide enough spectrum of experience with to know the truth around. I used to think that everyone could be vegan or should be vegan, and I'm realizing now that that may not be true, and at least at this point on my journey, it isn't true for me. So this is kind of a example of what the collective is going through on some level. And it would be super interesting to hear in the comments of like, what has your journey been this year of having to potentially look at an area of life that you thought was one way, and then slowly but surely realize that there's actually other truths out there. Bringing it back to this eclipse, these are the energies that I'm seeing translated in this sky formation, is that we're really being asked to drop the programming and grab onto that North Node in Gemini and swing through into this new reality that might challenge us on some level of our belief system, even if that's just a belief of something not being possible, or a fear of letting go due to nostalgia, living in the past, wanting things to go back to the way they were on some level. But no, it's just like, it's time to go. It's time to enter the new paradigm. Our thoughts create our reality, and this is a perfect eclipse to look at the way our emotions and the thoughts that we associate with them are creating a reality that potentially we want to shift. And we can do that with the shape-shifting qualities of Gemini. The sun in Gemini is at the North Node. The sun in Gemini represents us stepping into our authority, into our confidence, into a new identity and our willpower. So There's a few things making this a bit challenging. The first one I want to speak on is that the North Node ruler is Mercury, and Mercury is in pre-shadow this eclipse, getting ready to turn retrograde just a couple days later. I'm going to now go into the retrograde portion of this video. If you want to read the written version of this so that you can put it into your calendar easier, you can go to my Instagram, which I'll put up on the screen now. I have this in my last post on Instagram. So pre-shadow for the Mercury retrograde began on May 14th and runs until Mercury actually goes retrograde on May 29th. So just for review, a Mercury pre-shadow, it's just as important as the retrograde. So I always really pay attention during pre-shadows to what's coming up. I pay attention to anything that starts to feel a little bit weird, because I'm going to consider that part of my retrograde homework, if you will. And we know that retrogrades are kind of like having the wires crossed. We can have communication difficulties, we can have packages delayed, we can have our technology start to glitch out, and we can just have things simply get a little bit more challenging. But retrogrades are by function a time to slow down, reconsider, and gather more information before we sign any contracts or we make any bold decisions about moving forward, anything that's going to matter in the long term. I get a lot of messages from some of you asking me questions like, oh, but I have to make this decision during the retrograde. What do I do? I have to get my cavity filled, and if I wait any longer, I'm going to need a root canal. Should I wait? You guys, it's so tricky because you've got to decide for yourself. Sometimes we got to do what we got to do, and you can't wait till the end of retrograde, and that's okay. It's not the end of the world. All I'm saying is that if I can, I will hold off on decisions or purchases during a Mercury retrograde. And if I do have to make a commitment or a purchase of any kind, I make it knowing that there might be something about that commitment that hasn't revealed itself yet, and so I shouldn't be surprised if something does. So this lunar eclipse does have Mercury retrograde energy all up in it. Couple of things that make this Mercury retrograde extra potent. Mercury is in its home sign of Gemini. So Mercury is very strong this retrograde, and unfortunately, Mercury will spend most of its retrograde journey in hard square to Neptune, the planet of illusion and deception. Because Mercury rules our mind, especially when it's in Gemini, how do we want our mind? We want our mind to be smooth, sure, certain, clear, sober. Not possible when you have a square from Neptune. It's just not. Neptune creates fantasy, illusion, a smoke and mirrors effect. It's like Alice in Wonderland over here. So we want to be extremely careful this retrograde, because with the square to Neptune, there is a high potential for things to be better than they seem, or potentially worse than they seem. There is, because Mercury is with Venus, a potential that we may idealize a certain situation that later we find was not what we thought it was. Jupiter squares can definitely also cause us to overindulge in an idea, a fantasy, or a belief. So we might want to check ourselves. We want to have a really sobering outlook on anything that we're putting a bunch of energy into, not put all of our eggs in one basket that we later find doesn't have a bottom, right? And so general Mercury retrograde themes, this is usually friends, social connections, communications, conversations, phone calls, emails, texts, short journeys, and travel plans, siblings, neighbors, research, data, information, and technology. Those are all big themes with Mercury retrograde in Gemini. Because Mercury is with Venus, we definitely, I'm feeling big thing with friends and connections, because Venus is also such a little socialite herself when she's in Gemini. She's a little social butterfly. So we just want to make sure that we're not falling for a pipe dream. Also, retrograde themes around Gemini can be gossip or anything that's shallow. So just wanting to check in with our intentions. All right. So Mercury actually goes retrograde on May 29th. And you can see that Mercury will go retrograde right there with Venus. We'll have the sun at the north node still just like pulling us into this future. So bringing it back around, that's what is so frustrating about this eclipse in a sense, is that we're being asked to quantum leap forward, but the ruler of the north node is retrograde. So there is this essence of things not entirely being clear and sort of tangled, in the sense of not knowing exactly what future path to take, but that we really just need to flow, remain mutable, let the energies shapeshift and bring us to where we're going to go, which will probably become much more clear after the retrograde. So yeah, Mercury goes retrograde on the 29th. Next date of interest for the retrograde will be June 9th and 10th. We have a new moon on the 9th, and on the 10th, Mercury will conjunct the sun exact there at 20 degrees. When Mercury conjuncts the sun, we have an illumination of the Mercury retrograde themes. So I'll always tune into this in my own calendar. If anything has come up, if anything has been confusing, I'll wait until Mercury conjuncts the sun, because that usually brings in like another step in the retrograde journey. However, I am of course going to wait until Mercury goes direct on June 22nd to make any long-standing decisions or choices. So yeah, here's the chart for the 22nd, and you can see that when Mercury goes direct at 16 degrees, it's gonna be right there with the North Node. So this is why this Mercury retrograde is so intense, because when Mercury stations forward and we start to move forward with our own decisions, it has to do with our future and the long term and what we're evolving into. And similarly, Saturn is in a supportive trine to not only Mercury, but the North Node as well. So if we have Saturn supporting this forward movement, we know that it's important. We know that it's what we really are trying to build for the long term, for our future, for what's best for us, etc. I want to really quickly give major props to the amazing astrologer and my dear friend David Palmer, the Leo King. He did a phenomenal live stream on his Instagram. He does a lot of live streams, so you may have to scroll back a little bit, but it was a live stream on this eclipse, and I believe he was talking about this retrograde as well. But I'm just going to paraphrase what he was bringing up, because I think that it's so true and it echoes a lot of my sentiments as well, is that Mercury rules the media with these squares from Neptune, with the square from Jupiter. I would not be the least bit surprised if this eclipse brought in another onslaught of propaganda and manipulation from the media. He just went into this beautiful, brilliant rant about the importance of aligning with our intuition to not be led astray during this time. And for David and for myself, that looks like not letting anyone, no government official, no pharmaceutical representative, no propaganda, no family member, friend, no one dictate what we do with our own bodies, and staying really anchored in our own truth, staying sovereign, staying healthy, free, and aligned with God and our own soul. So I am uplifting, supporting, and cheering any of you out there who are on that same trajectory, and encouraging us all to stay really strong in that during this eclipse, if and when a bunch of really crazy headlines come through. Oh, and I want to link you guys to my Truther account on Instagram. I've actually never linked that on YouTube. I'm putting it up there on the screen. My Truther account on Instagram is Heyoka's Hideout. I essentially compartmentalize all the information that I like to share that will get you shadow banned, and I put it on that account rather than my other account. So I'll post alternative doctors, scientists that are releasing information about the jab that are getting silenced. I post crypto information. I post a lot about my own individual health journey, biohacking, lots of fun stuff. Basically, the stuff that will get you deplatformed. I put it all there. So if that's of interest to you, follow me on Heyoka's Hideout. And if me talking about any of this on this channel has made it so that this channel is no longer in alignment for you, that's totally fine and totally to be expected with the North Node in Gemini. We are all branching out and finding our own version of truth. So the last thing that I just want to touch on really quick is that we have Jupiter now in Pisces. I love Jupiter in Pisces so much. Jupiter has not been in Pisces since 2010. Maybe you can feel back into 2010 and remember what a magical, psychedelic, mind-expanding year that was. When Jupiter is in Pisces, it's blooming and expanding into the dreamlike realms of Neptune-ruled Pisces. So you may have felt that in the last few days, kind of this otherworldly feeling that you can't quite put your finger on. We're going to have Jupiter in Pisces for a little bit, and then it's going to retrograde back into Aquarius, where it will be until it returns to Pisces at the end of the year on December 29th. So we're getting a little taste of it now, but really the first few months of 2022 is when we're going to get the full-on Jupiter Pisces download, but enjoy it while it lasts. And yeah, I think I'll end it there. That feels pretty thorough and long. Thank you guys for sticking with me. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and a share. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to link you guys to my Instagram as well as my website. I do bookings through my website, so if you're interested in a reading, reach out to me at coyotestarastrology.com. Wishing you a beautiful full moon lunar eclipse and giving you full support to launch into those new North Node Gemini ideas, thoughts, and realities. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.